Datsana on the 9th of August, 1979. No matter how high and how advanced the knowledge of the world may be, it will still not be able to eliminate the dukkha and hardship of the world, because this knowledge is the mundane knowledge, and not the knowledge of Dhamma. Dhamma always imparts peace and coolness. The world that is without Dhamma will always be afflicted with trouble. No matter how much one may have studied or learned this mundane knowledge, one will not be able to overcome or get rid of the dukkha inside one's heart. For this is not the knowledge that can extinguish dukkha. The knowledge that can extinguish dukkha is the knowledge of Dhamma. This knowledge of Dhamma that is taught by any of the Buddhas is solely for the putting out or extinguishing of dukkha. One who takes up the learning and practice of Dhamma will definitely come across the result of Dhamma. For this reason, although the world and Dhamma exist together, they are not one and the same thing. It is the same way with male and female, or men and women, who are mixed and living together in the same place. No matter how many of them there may be, one can always tell them apart. By merely looking, one will be able to tell that they are different from one another, that they are men and women. And it is the same way with the world and Dhamma. Although they might be blended and mixed in together, one can tell the characteristics of Dhamma, and one can also tell the characteristics of the world. One will be able to tell and discern this very clearly if one is someone who has learned Dhamma. But it is not possible for one who has not taken up the learning of Dhamma to know this. How could one know if one hasn't learned it? One can then only know about the world, and one will think that the world is the best and most supreme thing. One thinks that the ways of the world can make people perfect and worthy. And for one who has honor and dignity, high rank, power and influence, one thinks that that person is very noble or exceptional, although inside the heart of that person there is nothing noble or exceptional at all, except just fire that is burning hot. No matter how much one might declare how high and noble one might be, if it is not in the way of Dhamma, then one will never be able to find any happiness from this declaration. Don't have the understanding that one can find happiness in this world from solely studying the mundane or worldly knowledge. In whichever time and place, and in whatever class or society of people this Dhamma is found, this Dhamma will always be able to impart happiness to those people and societies in which it is found, corresponding to the intensity and amount of Dhamma that has been established in them. Therefore, Dhamma is extremely vital to the world. In every form of work or undertaking, there should always be Dhamma, because every form of work has the purpose of imparting benefit to the one who performs it. When one does work for oneself, then one expects this work to impart benefit to oneself. If the work is for the family, then this work is expected to produce results for the family. The work for the society or the country is likewise for the purpose of the benefit of society at large or the country. In all this work, if there is no Dhamma, then instead of producing the result of happiness, there just turns out to be trouble and afflictions. The reason why the world cannot have any happiness is because it doesn't have any Dhamma. Now looking in towards ourselves, at any moment when the citta begins to think in the way of the world of samsara, of confusion and trouble, then this trouble and affliction will be reflected back into the heart and consume and scorch the heart. The intensity of affliction depends on how much one puts in one's thoughts about these things, and this is what is used as the measurement of our dukkha and hardship. On the day that the citta is calm and peaceful, that is a day that the citta does not get involved with the world of samsara, which is just the story of dukkha. On that day, the citta will be at ease. When one's citta has gradually experienced the samatha Dhamma, although only of the beginning stage, one will begin to see the calm and peacefulness of the heart. Samatha means calm. And why is it called calm? This is because all the confusion and restlessness is found inside the heart. But when the heart has received the remedy of Dhamma, that emerges from our exertion and practice of Dhamma, then the result of calm will appear. This consequently brings up the happiness of the heart. One is then not troubled. The aramana of the world and the aramana of Dhamma are different things. The thinking in the way of Dhamma and the thinking in the way of the world differ greatly from one another. Thinking in the way of the world is the way of accumulating dukkha, hardship, and trouble. But thinking in the way of Dhamma is the way of removal of the kilesas, tanha, and asava, and the dukkha that arises as the consequence of them. It gets rid of them from the heart. Therefore, one who believes in virtue and Dhamma, and in the principles of the Lord Buddha, especially those who are practitioners, must concentrate their attention at this point, more than anything else. For this point is the correct place to concentrate our attention. We must constantly observe and look at the activities of the citta. These activities follow the flow of the kilesas, tanha, and asava, that keep pushing this citta to keep on thinking. And the more it thinks, the more it begins to round up and accumulate dukkha, which is the result of this thinking. They are inseparable. If one wants to think, one should think in the way of Dhamma. One should always resist one's thinking in all of one's postures. One must always contend, struggle with, and eradicate them. And this is what is meant by diligent effort and exertion. No matter how hard and strenuous or easy it might be, this is our work. And why do we say that our work is like this? This is because the Lord Buddha taught us this way as the way of overcoming the kilesas. And this was the way that he taught before us. All of the Savakas also listened to the same instructions and practiced in the same way. They all had to endure dukkha and hardship. For this is the way it is for one who goes into battle. One has to experience dukkha, and before one can vanquish the kilesas, one has to endure quite a lot of that dukkha. It is similar to the boxers who have to fight in the ring. Although the winner might have won the match, we should not think that he did not have to go through quite a lot of dukkha, pain, and affliction from his opponent. But that kind of victory is victory in the way of the world. We only talk about this as a point of comparison. For this kind of victory is the kind which one can never come to an end of. But with the contention of Dhamma and the kilesas, once one has attained to victory, then there will not be any more contention thereafter. The dukkha that arises from one's struggling with the kilesas, and the dukkha that arises from one's resisting them, and the dukkha that arises from one's being careful and cautious, and putting in one's effort into the investigation. This dukkha must be considered as quite a natural consequence of the kilesas. It is a fact accepted by everyone in this world. The Lord Buddha was the first one to experience this by passing out and going unconscious. How could he not experience dukkha? It is the same way with the Savakas, and this kind of experience was already accepted in the past. So how can we expect otherwise? How can we expect to come up with the result without having to go through this dukkha, and not having to experience the kind of hardship that the Lord Buddha and the Savakas went through? This is impossible. We have to go through dukkha as we tread in the footsteps of the Lord Buddha and the Savakas. They had to experience dukkha, so we must also experience dukkha. They had to endure it, so we must also endure it. They were fighters, so we must also be fighters. Then we can be said to be followers of the teacher. We must not take up these things, thoughts and arammana, that are created by the kilesas, and be deceived by them. We must not believe in those things, but instead, we must always be contending with them. Dhamma is the instrument that identifies the kilesas, and it is the instrument that contends and fights with them. Sati Dhamma is the Dhamma of awareness or mindfulness. It is the thing that takes care of one. The kilesas arise within the heart. And what is the cause for the appearance of the kilesas? It is the forms, sounds, smells, tastes, and tactile objects. They come into contact at the heart, and it is at the heart that we become aware of them. They manifest themselves in the various guises within the heart, and sati, or mindfulness, is within the heart also. It is capable of being aware of these things at every moment they come into contact, and one is capable of constantly contending with them. It is because we have already set up our determination to really give it a good fight. Sati is the most vital. This is Dhamma. We must be constantly taking care of ourselves with mindfulness. We should not remain doing nothing and being idle, and not having sati to take care of ourselves. We might think that this is a way of being at ease, but really it is just being complacent and lying waiting for the kilesas to come and cremate us. This is not a good thing. The good thing must be when we are constantly struggling and opposing the kilesas. This is our work. It is a necessity for us, and this is our duty. This is because our intention or aim is likewise. That is the reason why we took up the robe. We have all experienced the life in the world before we took up the robe, and we know what it is like. We know the taste of the worldly life, and we know that it is mixed with poisons. There isn't a single taste of worldly life in which we can be confident or in which we can put our trust. But with the taste of Dhamma, it is of a nature in which we can wholeheartedly put our trust. We are now putting our trust in and dependence on Dhamma. The four living requisites, food, clothing, shelter, and medicines, have all been well provided by the lay people. They have been willingly offered by the laity out of their sattha and respect. We therefore have no concern or worry for these things, because they are well provided. So we don't have to be disturbed and lose time in putting forth our diligent effort into the practice. We only have this one work to do, and that is the work of eradicating the kilesas, using the various means and techniques that can be devised by our own wisdom and ability. That is all that there is to our work. All the other works are not important or necessary for a samana, one who has gone forth, and who takes up the path of the Lord Buddha. We should not think that all the other work in the world is anything spectacular or worthwhile enough to warrant getting ourselves involved with it, becoming deluded in it, and being totally obsessed by it. However advanced each development might be, it is merely a development in the way of the world. Everything has already gone in the way of the world. But the important thing is to build and develop the heart. This is the most important thing. one will then be able to arrive at contentment. Even though one lives in a small hut with the roof leaking, one will find it quite comfortable and free from concern. And when one goes away, one has no worry about it. We are not going after fame or honor the way the world seeks after these things. This is just the way of the world, and no matter how much it might be in fashion, it is merely a fashion. There is no true essence in them. But in the way of Dhamma, for one who practices following the teaching of the Lord Buddha, he will find security and satisfaction, even though he might be living in a small hut. This will always be so for him if he constantly exerts himself to the utmost of his ability and never lets it lag behind. Sati is extremely important in its being aware of the contention or interaction between the kilesas and Dhamma. Most of the time, it is the kilesas that destroy Dhamma. Be very careful and cautious. This is our duty. This is really our work, as I have told you from the depth of my heart, and out of my deepest appreciation for Dhamma, and from the results of my personal practice. I have also come across the results of Dhamma, and seen its worth and value. I follow the instructions of Dhamma, like the instruction that says, Rukkamula Sena Sanang, living under trees. This is the dwelling place and cultivating ground of one who is desirous of the total deliverance from dukkha, having as the object of work Kesa, Loma, Nakha, Danta, Tacho, hair of the head, hair of the body, nails, teeth, and skin, and the rest of the 32 parts of the body. Taja Panchaka Kammatthana. This has the meaning of the list of the Kammatthanas, having the skin as the fifth in the list. This is the literal translation, but it actually means that it is the skin that wraps round everything, because it is the skin that wraps up and blinds and obscures the heart from perceiving the truth. Even though it is extremely thin, it can completely cover up the truth. That is why when the Lord Buddha taught the 5 Kammatthana and got to the skin, he then reversed the order. We must investigate these 5 parts until we get to the skin. Then we must turn the skin inside out. Look into the flesh and all the insides of the body. We must turn them all inside out. See what it looks like inside. We have seen the external parts, so now we want to look into the internal parts. When we look at the external, we are always deceived. Wherever we look at the external parts, they are all deception. The outer parts of the skin deceives our eyes, but the inside of the skin will enable us to come up with the eye of wisdom, to really look into the truth of the rest of the parts of the body, that they are all of the same nature, like the inside of the skin. For this reason, the Lord taught us to investigate forwards and backwards, back and forth, repeatedly again and again. It is the same way with farmers who rake and plow their fields, back and forth, again and again, until the soil is ready for planting. In our investigation, we should not count the number of times that we have investigated as a measure of our result, of the Magga, Phala, and Nibbana. But we should take our adeptness and skillfulness in our investigation again and again, until understanding it truly and letting go of it. We will not have any attachment, because we will have seen truly with Panya that accords with Dhamma. When we have arrived at this stage, whether we let go of it or not, it will be let go of naturally by itself. This is the Dhamma that says Sanditthiko. This is the work of the Bhikkhu. Please set up this understanding and have it deeply embedded within your heart. Don't be aroused and immersed in the delusion of the world of samsara, and then go out of the way of Dhamma to follow the way of the world by becoming involved in the confusion of building projects, like building temples and kutis and salas, or building this or building that. One just cannot live happily without doing this building and construction. So everything just turns into the way of the world, and there is no calm, peacefulness, and coolness within the heart. This kind of work is not conducive to peace and calm, but only to confusion and trouble internally and externally. Internally, it involves a lot of trouble inside the temple with the bhikkhus and samaneras, and externally, it involves the lay people. So it just turns out to be an affair that disturbs the world and the public at large, and it turns everything into mud and slime. Furthermore, the relationship between the laity and the bhikkhus, who are punya ketang lokasa, the highest field of merit for the world, becomes antagonistic and opposing to one another. The Sangha now turns into a ghost instead of a field of merit that constantly eats up the people. So how can this be the way that leads to peace and tranquility? Think about it. It is because this is not the work of the bhikkhus. The work of the bhikkhu is to develop virtue for himself, and to develop the citta to perfection. One must have sati panya to constantly take care of the citta. One should never be without sati and panya. The citta will then become worthy and valuable. It cannot be beyond the training and disciplining ability of sati panya. The work that we do covers what we have mentioned earlier, and the Lord even has given us 40 subjects of meditation. Be it any one of these subjects of Kammatthana, it will be the work which will suit each individual personality and character. These are the works that we should take up and practice to train ourselves with. They are the most important works. one must use the 5 kammatthana, that is, Kesa, Loma, Nakha, Danta, and Tacho, or the other 32 parts of the body, as one finds suitable to one's character and personality. One must investigate, using these objects as the basis for one's investigation. Investigate so as to see the truth of them. That is, to find out about their nature, because they are found right within our bodies, and are existing right here with us. We are not lacking in any of these parts of the body. So why can't we perceive the truth and realize it? How was it that the Lord Buddha and the Savakas were able to understand and realize this truth? Their eyes were similar to our eyes, and their hearts were similar to our hearts. Their sati was similar to our sati. The reason is that they used their sati and they used their panya in the right and proper way in investigating these things. They investigated following the reality or the true nature of these things. And so they came up with the right sati and right panya that accord with the Dhamma, and were capable of uprooting their own delusions and attaining to wisdom. This work is the work of uprooting the kilesas, tanha, and asava, and it is appropriate for the bhikkhu. This is the genuine work of the bhikkhu, and he should set up his determination and all of his effort into this work. One should not see any other work as more important than this work, for it would not be the principle of the Samana Dhamma, and it would not be the work that the Lord Buddha taught us to do. All of these other things are quite adequate for our needs. We should not be concerned or bothered with them, because this would just disturb ourselves uselessly. Let us dig and search into our work, no matter how hard and difficult it might be. We have to consider that we are now in the battlefield. Today we are having difficulty in contending with the kilesas. We must ask ourselves, what is the reason for this? What is the reason for the citta not being able to gain calm? We must concentrate our investigation to find out the cause of our restlessness and agitation. What kind of aramana is the citta being obsessed with? We must take that aramana as the object of our investigation, and analyze and investigate the truth and the nature of it, so that we can see it clearly as to what it really is. This will then lead us back into the flow of the citta, because this is the one that is being deluded in them, by drawing up the different concepts about these things, and then entangling and blinding itself. This entanglement is due to one's delusion and one's presumption and assumption. This is the way of doing the investigation. At least we must make the heart attain to calm. We must coerce and master it with sati and panya. It will eventually calm down, because the heart is not beyond the power of sati and panya. It is the same way with every type of kilesa. They are not beyond the power of sati and panya. So how can the citta be beyond the ability of sati and panya? Dhamma is always superior. It is the instrument for training and disciplining, and it is also the instrument for eradication of every type of kilesa. But when we use Dhamma, why do we seem to be having difficulty with the application? It always turns out that it is the kilesas that are cutting us down all the time. What is the reason for this? It is really because of ourselves. We must develop ourselves so that we will be able to catch up with everything that happens. We should not remain idle, doing nothing. We must use our sati and panya. We must come up with the various means and techniques. Once we have begun to think about it, then we will always be able to come up with new ways of doing this investigation, for they will appear as insight to us. This insight is in accordance with Dhamma. It is the insight into the nature of the kilesas, and we will be able to realize gradually all the various kinds of Dhamma as we go on. For this is the consequence of our reflection, meditation, and thinking in the way of Dhamma. This can be any part of our body, or any external things that come into contact with us. We must investigate these things. We must differentiate and see them as asubha. Both the external and internal can be used as the magga, the path. It is only this one sankhara that can be turned in the way of magga, the path of practice. It is the same old sankhara that can turn in the way of samudaya, the origin of dukkha. But normally, this sankhara is the instrument of the kilesas. It is a good source of samudaya, and has always been so. There is no question about this. In order to make this sankhara the instrument of magga, the means that will deliver us to freedom, we have to train this sankhara and develop it. We have to use this sankhara in our work in order that it will be working for Dhamma. If the citta has no calm or tranquility, how can a bhikkhu find any happiness? He is merely living in hell, the hell that is scorching his heart. And this fire is the fire of the kilesas. This is the fire of raga, the fire of dosa, and the fire of moha. And this is the heap of fire that constantly scorches and consumes inside the heart. How then can we find any happiness? What is there to this world? And what essence is there to this body and to this existence? Once the kilesas are constantly consuming the citta, one is then caught in a state of depression and despair. So how can we instill any worth and meaning into our life? We have to depend on Dhamma, which is meaningful and valuable. Using this Dhamma to eliminate and eradicate those unworthy things, which are the kilesas. For the kilesas are the chief culprits that make our lives become worthless. But when the kilesas are being dissolved, calm will appear as a natural consequence of that. In the beginning stages of practice, the state of calm is extremely vital. If the citta is not calm, then one will not be able to find any happiness. One will be living in the midst of the heap of fire, the fire of raga, dosa, and moha. We will not have anything superior or noble in us, except the yellow robe that we put on. What is the use of this yellow robe? There are plenty of them in the shops. We are not after the yellow robe, for this robe is only a symbol to indicate the kind of life we live and the kind of work that we do. And what is the work and duty of a bhikkhu? This work is in the eradicating of the kilesas, and not in the accumulating of them. And it is not the duty of the bhikkhu to remain idle and complacent within the midst of the fire of raga, dosa, and moha. One should rather rest in the state of calm, and one should remain cool within that state of calm. One must investigate and analyze this body to see its nature as being made up of the four elements, or as being anicca, dukkha, and anatta, or as being asubha, or as particular filth that fills this body. This body is full of anicca, dukkha, and anatta. They are all found right within this body. We must concentrate our sati and panya to investigate right into this body, so that we can understand its nature very clearly. Living and staying with your teacher is not a definite thing. There is a constant state of change, because we are living in the world of anicca. So while we are still living with somebody who can give us the instruction, we should try to concentrate our effort in getting rid of and uprooting all the things that are harmful to us, by depending on our diligent effort as the means. When we have any questions, we should consult and question our teacher. I am always ready to help you in clearing up your questions, and to advise you on the practice of citta bhavana. It is not that after I have instructed you, I then don't pay any attention to you, for I am always waiting to hear from you, waiting to hear about the result that you may have come across in your practice. When the time or occasion is right to give you advice, I am always ready to give you such advice. You have to get to see and experience the results of your practice. Once the citta has come across them, then it is unavoidable that there will be questions. This is especially so when one gets into the level of panya, for then one will have come across the source of perplexities and questions. Some of these questions or problems you will be able to solve by yourself, but with some others you will have to depend on your teacher's assistance steadily as you progress along. For this reason, the Lord gave us the name Savaka, which means one who listens. We have to listen. We have to hear the instruction in order for us to understand the way of practice. The only one who is we are also Savakas, those who listen. So we must listen to the instructions. And when we hear them, we have to have them truly and deeply embedded within our hearts. We must not just merely listen, for this is like throwing water on a dog. No matter how much water we might splash on the dog, it will shrug it all off, and no water will be left on it at all. It is the same way with the Dhamma that is being splashed into our hearts. We can shrug it all off, as it is within the power of the kilesas to do so. So the Dhamma doesn't have the chance to get into our hearts. When we listen blindly with uncertainty. When we listen, we never seem to be able to take up the basis of Dhamma and the principle of truth and reason. We cannot come up with the result from this listening, so that we can use our ability of sati and panya to emancipate ourselves. This is not the way to do it, for this is not the basis for a practitioner to take up, if he is desirous of the state of freedom from dukkha. He is only comparable to pork, which is ever ready to go on the chopping board. This is not the way of Dhamma. I have great concern for you, and that is why I constantly give you these instructions. I don't see anything in this temple of any worth, other than the bhikkhus who are living with me. I think of their benefit, and that they can develop themselves to perfection, and then help the world propagate the teaching, which is something that will happen naturally, and is something inseparable. But at the present time, one should only be concerned with developing and training oneself, so that one will be able to establish the basis of Dhamma inside oneself, and be certain in oneself. The benefits for others will follow, just like when the Lord Buddha concentrated his effort in cultivating and developing himself. He paid no attention to anybody else, but concentrated all of his effort in developing himself until he had attained to and realized the Dhamma, and had totally arrived at the land free of dukkha. He then took up the duty of the Sasada, the great teacher, propagating the teaching of Dhamma out of his metta, his benevolence and loving kindness, until the time of his final passing away. Furthermore, he passed on his teaching right on down to the present day. The benefits for oneself and the benefits for others are therefore interrelated, and it was the same way with all of the Savakas. They followed the same example of the Lord Buddha to the utmost of their ability. They did benefits for others as far as their personal endowment and vasana would allow. In teaching other people, when one doesn't have anything that one knows or understands about the truth, then what will one take up to teach other people with, in order to instill truth and understanding in these people? It is not possible to do this if one has not first realized the truth oneself. One would not be able to teach the truth to other people. One could only teach with uncertainty and blindly. And if this is the way one does it, how then can one expect other people to understand the truth? The people who listen can only listen blindly with uncertainty, and in the end, both parties gain no benefit from this. There are only the names of Dhamma and the names of the Kilesas filling one's heart, but the truth of Dhamma never appears inside the heart. With what can one then be of benefit and usefulness for both the one who gives the instruction and the one who listens to it? It will not be of any benefit to either party. There can only be speculation and guesses, and the way of following the sasana with speculations and guesses can easily flounder and be easily swayed. This is very different and a great contrast to one who has practiced and who has realized the truth within himself. For he will be the one who is not shaken or swayed, and when he teaches the truth and the principle of reason, without having any qualms, because he teaches what he has already experienced and realized within his heart. So how can he have any diffidence or doubt? How can he be groping or uncertain, when the truth is clearly manifested within himself? He can only fully exhibit the truth that he knows within his heart. The one who listens can listen fully to the utmost of his ability, and that was the way during the time of the Lord Buddha that the teaching was propagated. Therefore, the Dhamma that arises from practical experience and is transmitted into the heart of the one who listens is different from the Dhamma that one commits into one's memory. All there are just the names of the Kilesas within the heart. But that particular heart cannot get rid of or diminish the Kilesas inside itself. This is useless. Let's get to see the truth. The truth and what is committed to memory are two different worlds. For instance, when we memorize the names of the Kilesas, Tanha and Asava, and the names of the Magga, Phala, and Nibbana, these are all just memory. But when one practices and attains to the result, the truth, then this is very different from what one has committed to memory. Memory cannot get rid of the Kilesas, but the truth that one has realized and experienced, wherever it gets to, will always be able to eliminate the Kilesas. When one has totally and circumspectively realized the truth, then all the Kilesas will be eliminated. This is the truth, seeing clearly by oneself, and knowing clearly by oneself. This is what truth is. It is not speculation or guessing. Be serious and earnest. The Dhamma of the Lord Buddha can be clearly realized within the heart of each practitioner. Don't relent in your exertion, but concentrate your effort in your practice. If there is dukkha, we must endure it. Everyone has to experience this dukkha, because we are not dead people. The dukkha that we experience is the dukkha that arises from our contention with the kilesas, and it is not the dukkha that goes towards our destruction, which would make us discouraged and weak. This dukkha is for victory. It is the dukkha that will eliminate the much more severe dukkha that will arise if we do not overcome the kilesas. It is the dukkha for the total eradication of all the dukkha within our hearts. So how can we see this kind of dukkha as something unbearable, such that we are discouraged and defeated? When it is the time for us to shoulder the dukkha that is being created by the kilesas, that we have not yet got rid of, how do we manage to carry the burden of that dukkha and endure that? We have to think and consider based on reason. We are the practitioners. Sati Panya cannot be made into food. It can only be used for correcting the kilesas, tanha and asava. Then this will be in accordance with the principle of Dhamma that the Lord Buddha taught to us in every respect. In listening to a desana or instruction of one who has realized the truth from his practice in the field of practice, this is considered to take the first priority. For one who is in the stage of developing calm, the citta will get to calm very easily while listening to the desana, even when one has never had any calm before. It will happen because one's awareness is in contact with the sound of the flow of Dhamma consistently. So the citta cannot think about any other thing. Normally, it is the tendency of the citta to think about this and that, even during the time when one tries to control it, when one is practicing citta bhavana. This thinking process can still easily continue on, because this thinking has always been much more powerful than sati and panya. Therefore, our sati, or mindfulness, that is being developed in the beginning stages, is not capable of catching up with this thinking. In the practical field, when one listens to a desana, one focuses the citta's attention inside, at the contact of the sound and the flow of Dhamma that comes into contact with the citta. Then the citta will not have the time to think about anything else, and then it will calm down. Once one comes to see the result clearly within oneself, it is much more effective than trying to develop calm on one's own, especially with the citta which has established the base of calm. It will quickly and easily enter into calm when one listens to this instruction. Sometimes, when one has entered into this state of calm, one will even let go of the sound and just remain in the state of calm by oneself. This is when one can establish or remain in the state of calm by oneself, without having to depend on any other thing, as the means of keeping the citta within that state. This can happen. Here we are speaking about the level of calm. But when one has entered into the level of panya, when one listens to a discourse, the citta doesn't remain in the state of calm, but will follow the instruction. It doesn't remain static, but keeps on following behind what has been instructed. It is as if it is about to fly. This is due to the power of panya. This is because even when one is alone, with panya it will be turning around relentlessly. And when one listens to the desana of one's teacher, it will be revolving and following behind. It is as if the teacher is going ahead of us and clearing the way for us. We just merely follow along the path that he has opened up for us. And when our teacher gets to the point where we have been investigating, we will be waiting and wondering what he will say, and our attention will be focused right at that point. But when our teacher gets to this point, he just goes right through it, without having any hesitation, because he has already gone before us. He already knows about this point, why we still do not know it. So when he makes a drive and goes through it, as we follow behind, we also jump through and go beyond the point where we were. Then we would have passed beyond that stage. That is why I truly believe that during the time of the Lord Buddha, when the Lord gave his discourses, there were many people that attained to the Magga, Phala, and Nibbana, right at the time that the Lord gave the instruction. How can I not believe this when the truth itself has manifested within my heart? How can I not believe it when the truth inside attests to this fact? I can see this within myself. Who can be wiser in the way of teaching people than the Lord Buddha? Think about that. The Lord Buddha is the greatest and the foremost teacher. Next to him were the Savakas. They also realized and experienced the truth within themselves. So whatever they talked about, they only taught the truth, because it was what they had experienced within themselves. The one who listens and who is aiming at the truth will know and come to understand, and will be impressed. This is because the discourse that is being given is not given by one who doesn't know and understand what the meaning of Dhamma is, and says everything by speculation and conjecture. Then those people who listen merely listen, and believe that by listening they can develop a certain amount of tendency and inclination for Dhamma. But this really doesn't do any good. The discourses and desanas given in the field of pariyatti, the field of studying, and the desanas given in the field of practice are two different things. Most of the time our heart is fake and unreal. It is very seldom that it is Dhamma. Most of the time it is faked. That is, it is not in the way of Dhamma, when it thinks and concocts about the various things. So this is the place where we have to try to correct and remedy. We have to be very careful and cautious, and we should not look too far away, because the main culprit is the citta itself. There is nothing other than the citta that is constantly building up trouble. It constantly concocts and imagines about the things of the past and the things of the future, and about those forms, sounds, smells, tastes, and tactile objects, and about good and bad. It just thinks about and imagines about these things constantly, without ever coming to an end, and it causes us to be bothered and in a state of confusion, as well as being deluded in these things. No matter how long ago the things that we bring up to think about happened, we will bring them up to think about all the same, so that we can be happy or sad, or just go mad and crazy over these things. We are deceived and deluded in the tricks of the kilesas that exhibit themselves through the khandhas. The khandhas are the original instrument of the kilesas. We have to try to make the khandhas the instrument of Dhamma. We must really try to do this, and do it until the kilesas are totally annihilated and eliminated from the heart. Then these 5 khandhas, or functions, will become solely the instrument of Dhamma. But even then, they will still wriggle and wriggle, because they cannot remain still. This is especially so with sankhara and sanya. The nature of sanya is much more subtle than the nature of sankhara. The sanya is very subtle, because it flows out so subtly, like ink that flows out over absorbent paper. Sankhara has to stir up before it concocts, but sanya just slowly flows or permeates out and forms a picture before sankhara can take up this picture or image, and then create and concoct up more concepts and stories and theories about these pictures. Sanya is extremely subtle, even when there is no influence that can cause it to get out of hand. It still has to wriggle because it cannot remain still, with the only exception that one can restrain it from time to time, occasionally. This khandha must concoct, and it is not influenced by the kilesas. It is just natural for it to concoct, in the way of creating presumptions and assumptions. It just does it naturally by itself. But even if it concocts, and presumes and assumes, there is nobody to take hold of it, or claim ownership of it. So it just goes on its own way, doing its own thing. It just arises and ceases, rises and ceases, wriggling and wriggling. But if there are the kilesas there to take possession of it, then things will really get out of hand. When there is nothing to influence it, then it just goes on its own way until the time for the discontinuity and dissolution of the khandhas. Then it comes to total cessation. This khandha, in the free state, when it is not being possessed by anything, just continues on functioning like a lizard's tail that has been cut off the body. It still goes on wriggling and wriggling. It is as if this cut-off tail is still alive, although in truth there is no life in it. And it is the same way with the khandha. It still goes on because the citta still possesses it, although the citta is not attached or deluded by it. The khandhas still go on functioning as normal. For instance, When one hears a sound, one will be aware of it. The organ that contacts the sound and the vijnana that is associated with it still function. But as soon as one hears the sound, it also disappears, so long as there is no one to act as the possessor to take hold of and become attached to it. It just arises and ceases, appears and disappears. And when it is time to restrain the conduct, that is, to put it to rest, then everything becomes still and quiet. All the conducts cease to function for a while, and then all that is left is just the knowingness. And when the knowingness is the only thing that remains, then it seems that this knowingness has totally embraced the entire universe. This knowingness appears as if it is like a sound that pervades over the entire universe. This is if we are comparing it with sound. This is due to its profundity, magnificence, and majesty. It is comparable to a resounding that pervades the entire universe. This knowingness has no influences to penetrate or get into it, and it is in its own natural state. This kind of knowingness is not the kind of knowingness in which we can fabricate or create it up out of our imagination. Truly, this knowingness is the most subtle of all things, and it cannot really be compared with anything. Even though one might know what it is like, one will just not be able to describe it. One only knows this knowingness, pervading and embracing the entire universe, due to its profundity and grandeur. It is as if this world and the universe are not here. All there is just the knowingness, striking and imposing. One cannot pinpoint where this knowingness is, but neither is one interested in trying to pinpoint it or take hold of it. What for? As long as one knows that there is no point where this knowingness can be found or traced, then one just accepts that fact. It doesn't have any characteristics of its own that one can point at or grab at. All there is just this knowingness that cannot be denied, and this knowingness is in its natural state. That is, it does not hanker for anything. It is not hungry, or nothing is either too much or too little. It is just right. It is as if this knowingness embraces the entire universe. During this time, it appears as if the universe is not there. All there is just this magnificent and imposing knowingness that appears to embrace the whole universe. It is really hard to describe it, and very difficult indeed for one to listen to it. It is correct if one says that this knowingness embraces the entire universe. Or one can say that there is just this knowingness without the universe. That is, that the whole world and the universe is just not there. This is because this knowingness does not become involved with the world. It doesn't take dependence on or have any concern with the world. It is just a natural state of knowingness, exhibiting itself. So it seems that all there is just this state of knowingness, and that the entire world and the physical universe is not there. This is because this one doesn't become involved with the rest. But when one comes out of that state, then all the concepts come into play, but all of them that come into contact with the citta just arise and cease, arise and cease. But there is nothing to come and bind and connect this thing, so that it becomes a big chain of events. There is no samudaya to stir up trouble for the citta. Whatever arises immediately ceases and disappears. One just merely makes use of the khandhas as they still go on. You must get to see this for yourself. Speaking like this, it sounds like I am just telling you a story and stretching your imagination. But really, when the time comes when one has truly realized this for oneself, one cannot keep it inside. This is what the genuine truth is like. Every day is the same. It remains constant. That is, one cannot say, how come the citta is like this today, and how come the citta is like this on another day, and on a different day. This doesn't happen. One then clearly realizes that it is the kilesas that cause the citta to change, to become this and to become that. Whether it is on the coarse, intermediate, or subtle level. These are all the tricks and deceptions of the kilesas. But when one has transcended them, then there is nothing else to come and deceive it. Then everything is just the same. All that there is just day and night. But as far as the years, months, and days are concerned, these are all just conventional setups. Looking at it from the natural principle, one is not concerned with these things. The citta has no concerns for days, months, or years. And what one can see with one's eyes is that there is just brightness and darkness. That is, there is just day and night. They just go on taking turns to appear. And that is all there is. What is there to be deluded about? The earth that we walk on, wherever we go, it is just the earth. What is there to be deluded about? And the water, we have plenty of it in our stomachs. What is there to be deluded about? Both the air and fire, we can feel and see them, and why be deluded in them? We can see the air because we are breathing it in and out, in and out. What is there to be deluded about? Why be deluded in the concept of I and mine, people and animals? Why build up these concepts and go against Dhamma? To go against Dhamma is like walking on thorns. We must see in accordance with Dhamma. If there are just the elements, we should see them as just the elements, and see them clearly inside our hearts. Let's see according to the truth that the Lord taught us, and then all the problems will be solved. Be really earnest and serious. You must conquer the kilesas, because they are harmful to the citta. Our concoctions and imaginations are harmful because they are being influenced by the kilesas. They are led by the kilesas. It is the same way with our presumption and assumption. But when there are no kilesas, then you can think any way you want to. It doesn't matter. You can then control it and restrain it. You can use it and you can put it to work. When you want to restrain it, you can do so. The khandhas are like the tools that you just put away after you have used them in the proper place. And when you want to use them again, you just take them out and use them. It is the same way with the 5 khandhas. When you want to take a rest and go to sleep, then you just shut them off. Or when you want to enter into samadhi bhavana, you also restrain them and put them to rest. You put to rest all your imagination and your thinking, and all the confusion that arises from this, and all that is left is just the knowingness, and there one can rest quite happily and at ease. And that is all there is to it. When the time comes for them to dissolve and break apart, one already knows that. One has thoroughly investigated them already, and there is no reason to get excited about it. This is because one has investigated and realized, and one understands according to the truth. Death is just the disintegration of the 4 elements of the body, and this is the truth which one has already investigated. So how can one get excited? One doesn't want to die. One still wants to live. Both the aversion for death and the inclination to life are one and the same thing. Why go on living when it is the time to pass away? Why try to resist it? This makes me think back to the Lord Buddha, our wise and great teacher. It was the time when the Venerable Sariputta came to bid farewell to the Lord Buddha as he was about to pass away. Had the Lord Buddha requested the Venerable Sariputta not to immediately pass away, that is, if he could remain alive a little bit longer, so as to help him propagate the teaching and do benefit for the world for a little bit longer, then this would have been encouraging the Vattajaka existence. For the Lord not to want him to pass away when death was imminent, when it was the time for death to happen, would have been trying to resist death. But had the Lord said, "All right, pass away," then this would have been another extreme, as if the Lord was encouraging death. What the Lord replied was that when the time was right for him, then all right, let it happen. And this is a very appropriate reply. When he said, "When the time is right," he meant that things should be allowed to happen naturally, following the natural principle that Sariputta had already investigated. In this way, one doesn't protest or resist this natural course of events, like asking Sariputta not to depart immediately. For this is wrong, because one is going against the truth. He could have said, "All right, go ahead, pass away." But again, when it is not the time, why pass away? That is why the Lord said, "When the time is right for you, when it is time to go, go. When it is time to stay, stay. But before you depart from this place, you should first present a Dhamma discourse to all of your brothers." The Lord said this to the Venerable Sariputta, and the Venerable Sariputta immediately understood that the Lord had implicitly given him the permission to perform at his best in giving a discourse, and whatever supernatural power he had could be exhibited at that time. So the Venerable Sariputta then performed at his best, both his ability in teaching Dhamma and his supernatural powers. He then bade farewell to the Lord Buddha. The Lord Buddha then gave his permission to any bhikkhus who would like to accompany him to the place of his passing away. And there were about 500 bhikkhus and samaneras who accompanied him to the place of his passing away, which was the room in which he was born. The point here is that when the Venerable Sariputta came to say goodbye to the Lord Buddha, as he was about to pass away, the Lord did not protest or request that he remain longer alive. He did not ask him to wait and stay a little bit longer, for this would have been encouraging the Vattajaka existence, and would be contradictory to the truth. But if the Lord has said, "All right, go ahead and do it," then that would have been on another extreme, and would be contradictory to the truth as well. That is why the Lord told him that it should be according to the time when it was right, suitable, and natural for the khandhas to break apart, and at the time when it was appropriate or suitable or right for him. It was the same way with the Venerable Moggallana when he came to say goodbye to the Lord Buddha, which was 7 days after the Venerable Sariputta, if my memory doesn't fail me. The Lord Buddha gave the Venerable Moggallana the same reply, and the same permission for him to perform and exhibit to the best of his ability, in his ability of giving a Dhamma discourse and his supernatural powers. The Venerable Moggallana was extremely wise and discerning, and he understood that the Lord had tacitly and implicitly given him the permission to perform at his best. So he performed both his ability to give the discourse and exhibit his supernatural powers. He gave the discourse and then levitated into the heavens, back and forth. As he came down, he gave further instructions, and then he levitated back into heaven again, and came back down. The Lord Buddha also gave the bhikkhus and samaneras permission to accompany the Venerable Moggallana as he went away for his passing away. Anybody who wanted to accompany him could do so. End of Desana.